Good morning, UConn. My name is Christi here today with a case update for Ziyad Fekri. This is not a full episode, but it is a case study follow-up on episode 3, where we discussed the case of Ziyad Fekri and his rape and assault of an undisclosed victim. On February 15th, 2021, at approximately 15:19 hours, a female UConn student, which I'll refer to as victim because that's how she's referred to in the affidavit, came to UConn Police Headquarters to report being assaulted by a male UConn student she was in an intimate relationship. This ended up being Ziyad Fekri, but she was hesitant to say that at the time. She stated that she had been seeing a male student for the last month or two, during which time they had been hooking up, which officers knew to mean having a casual sexual relationship, but that they are not officially dating. Victim stated that they had been seeing each other a couple times a week or up to daily. Victim refused to provide the name of the male who she had been having a casual sexual relationship with, and she stated that she would not provide the name because she didn't want police to contact him or for him to know that she spoke with police. Victim did share the offender as a UConn student and that he lived in the Hilltop apartment complex on the UConn campus. When asked about her injuries, she was very guarded with her answers, had her arms crossed in front of her stomach, and had a visible leg shake. Victim stated that the male, who was later identified in this investigation as Ziyad Fekri, said Fekri was over her apartment at the February 13th, 2021, and they were arguing about another guy that victim was talking to before she started her relationship with him, but no longer talks to. Victim stated there was no yelling during the argument because Fekri didn't want anyone to hear them. They were in her bed when Fekri wanted to have sex and victim refused. Victim stated that Fekri held her down on her bed and hit her in her right eye with a closed fist, which left her with a swollen black eye, which was still clearly visible by the time she talked to police. Victim stated that she did not lose consciousness and also reported that Fekri had used a pocket knife to make a long, shallow cut from one side of her torso to the other, with each end curving around to her sides. Fekri made a second cut with the pocket knife along her torso, which was above the other cut, and extended from her right side to the center of her torso. Fekri also used the knife to make a shallow cut across the victim's neck, which extended from the right side to the left side. Victim stated that after being punched and cut, Fekri had sex with victim. However, she didn't consider it to be sexual assault. Victim stated that Fekri had given her at least 2 previous black eyes, one of which was last Wednesday, which at the time was the 10th of February, and was still healing and visible under her left eye, and the other being approximately 2 weeks ago, where she said that Fekri had also slapped her in the face, held her down, grabbed her by the throat, choking her, and pulled her hair in a violent and aggressive way, though not in a sexual manner. During the interview, victim stated that she did not receive medical attention for her injuries. She was asked if she would like medical attention, and she said no. When asked why the abuse had taken place, victim stated that Fekri was angry at the fact that she was seeing someone else 2 months prior to them seeing each other. The above information provided by victim is captured on the investigating officer's body cameras. The injuries sustained by victim were photographed by UConn police investigators and are part of the case file. UConn police officer Funk and Volker then went outside to the UConn Police Department parking lot, where victim's friend, which I'll refer to as witness, as that's what it says in the affidavit, witness 1, was waiting in the car. Witness 1 stated that victim has been staying at her apartment on many nights because she does not feel safe in her own. Witness 1 stated that victim has not made any statements to her about Fekri threatening her life. Officers explained the seriousness of the incident and of Fekri's actions and encouraged her to speak to us for victim's safety. Witness stated that victim was staying with her and that Fekri did not know witness or where she lived. Victim came out of the police department and returned to the car, at which time she was upset, and she ended officers' conversations with witness 1. Also on the 15th, witness one and another of victim's friends came to the UConn Police Department and stated that they were aware of the abuse that victim was involved in. The second friend will be referred to as witness two. Both witness one and witness two knew that Fekri was on the men's soccer team here at UConn and knew that his first name began with a Z, but were unaware of his full name. On February 15th, witness one returned to UConn Police Headquarters and gave the following sworn written testimony to Officer Hilda Biddle. Victim one and I are on the track team together and are in the same training group starting in November 2020. Starting towards the end of January, she would come to practice with bruises and black eyes. From the first practice, I noticed her injuries. We talked about it. She was open and saying that it was from a guy she had been seeing since the fall. I knew from the beginning that this guy was on the UConn men's soccer team. She said that they weren't in a dating relationship, not boyfriend, girlfriend, not in an exclusive relationship, and she wouldn't tell him that she was seeing other guys. He said that she was lying about seeing other guys and would freak out about it. He would also threaten seeing other girls if she wouldn't help him with his homework. I know victim and he would talk via Snapchat. He would get angry if she tried to save any of the messages that he was sending her. At one point, their chats were set up to be deleted after 24 hours, and he got angry and made her change her settings to delete their chats immediately. He constantly would get angry over Snap messages if she would ever post a picture of herself on Snap or any other social media website. Victim one would tell me that he would get really angry over things that she had done in the past, including things that happened before they even knew each other. Also, things that he was dealing with in his life, like if he had a bad soccer game, lost a soccer game, or did poorly in a test, he would take it out on her. Over time, she explained that he was just showing up at her apartment or in her room uninvited. Eventually, I convinced her to stay in my apartment for a little bit, and she stayed with me for about a week and didn't return to her apartment alone during the day. It was around the first week of February that she stayed with me. Over that week, the marks and the bruises cleared up, seriously improved, and there were no new marks. Victim one thought she was imposing on me and felt like she needed to go back to her own apartment, and that is when new marks started showing up again. Victim one and I spoke about the new bruising and decided to speak with the Title IX office and get a no contact order. Upon Title IX informing him of the no contact order, he became very upset and the same day had violated the no contact order multiple times with no repercussions. Victim one and I both agreed that it was weird that he always knew where to find her or when she was leaving her apartment, and I definitely wonder if he is tracking her location somehow. Victim one turned off location services to her phone and Snapchat account so they wouldn't be able to track her phone, but there may be other ways of being able to track her that we don't know about. This weekend, starting around February 12th, 2021, not only was there bruising, but there were new cuts. Her injuries seemed to get more severe and he went from using his hands to using weapons. I'm not sure if he brought a knife, knowing that he was going to use it on her, but the incidents are definitely escalating. I talked to victim one today and asked her if she was scared for her life when she was around him. She said yes, and when I asked her if that was every single time he showed up, she said yes again. On February 16th, 2021, Detective Hannah went to the Greer Field House to speak with the athletic trainers for the women's track and field team. The purpose of the visit was to inquire if they had observed any physical injuries associated with victim one, a member of said team. A senior associate athletic trainer stated to Detective Hannah that they had only worked with victim one pertaining to a lower back injury that victim one incurred. This senior associate athletic trainer stated that during their sessions with victim one, they did not notice any visible injuries. An assistant athletic trainer noted that yesterday afternoon, on the 15th, they saw victim one in the hallway of the Greer Fieldhouse. This assistant athletic trainer stated that it appeared that victim one had two black eyes, and it was further noted by this assistant athletic trainer that victim, upon seeing them, went the other way towards the exit and did not engage them. They said that it was unusual for victim to not acknowledge them when she saw them in the hallway. They noted that they did not notice any other physical injuries on victim. Based on the above facts, an arrest warrant was issued for Ziyad Fekri on February 16th of 2021 for the incident that took place after midnight on February 13th, 2021, into the early morning of February 14th. The warrants charged were assault in the second degree, disorderly conduct, and unlawful restraint in the first degree. The arrest warrant was served on the 16th, with Ziyad Fekri being processed at UConn Police Headquarters in Storrs, Connecticut, and Fekri posted his bail of $75,000 in cash or surety bond, and according to university records, is currently living in a residence owned by the University of Connecticut while participating in classes. Now, this affidavit was written before his sentencing, which took place in October 28th of 2022. So that means he got to finish classes and graduate. On February 17th, 2021, at approximately 1830 hours, this affiant met with victim to further discuss the assaults she suffered by Ziyad Fekri in January and February of 2021. Victim was still reserved and quiet with the conversation. However, she was willing to clarify some questions I had about the assaults, and also had some screenshots and photos on her cell phone she was willing to share with me. During this interview, the first information victim shared with me was a voice memo she had sent to a friend from home following her first assault by Fekri. This assault happened on January 14th, 2021, in victim's bedroom in her residence hall, and she sent the voice memo on the following day, January 15th, 2021. The victim played the recording on her cell phone, and I copied part of the recording that describes Fekri's first assault on the victim memo using a UConn Police Department digital voice recorder. I later saved the recording on thumb drive storage for evidence. In the voice memo, victim's voice sounded troubled and upset. Victim states that during an argument with Fekri, she tried to leave her bedroom, and he pulled her back by putting his hand around her neck. Victim then tried to leave the room again, and he pulled her to the ground by her hair. Next information victim provided was a screenshot with a date and timestamp of January 26, 2021 at 9:21 p.m. This photo was a picture of victim in which she said she was before the breakup and showed she had no visible injuries on her face at this time. The next image victim provided me is a screenshot photo of a scratch on her left cheek and nose, as well as redness under her left eye she sustained during an argument on the 26th of January 2021 when they broke up. Victim reported Fekri reached around her from behind aggressively and scratched her face with his wristwatch. Victim also stated Fekri punched her during this incident. This photo was timestamped January 27th of 2021 at 1:23 p.m. Victim provided text message conversations she had with her roommate on the 26th, describing what happened, which included victim saying he got a little physical and acknowledged that Fekri hit her. In her text, victim said, "He slapped me and did his neck grab and shit, but don't repeat that." Victim explained to me that while she told her roommate he had slapped her, the strike by Fekri was more of a punch with a closed fist, and she was downplaying the incident to her roommate. A continuation of this conversation talks about Fekri hitting victim again, with victim stating, "I swear on my life, I'm telling, but my face is fucked up, and I really can't go in public with it." Next information provided to me was a screenshot conversation victim described as a roommate chat. The date stamp on these screenshots began in January 25th of 2021 and continues through February 5th, 2021. This conversation talks about keeping the front door locked and for the roommates to have their keys, and later talks to victim having a situation with a male and that she was going to be staying at her friend's place. A photo of victim with a black right eye, which victim reports to have been received by Fekri punching her on or about January 30th. This photo was shared by victim with her roommate on January 30th. I asked victim if she had any records of communication with Fekri. Victim reported they used cell phones to Snapchat almost entirely, and the settings on the phones were such that communications did not leave a record. Victim said they only texted a few times and occasionally spoke using voice. I asked victim for clarification on her communications with Fekri leading up to her assault midnight on February 13th, 2021, into the morning, February 14th. As during previous interviews, she was extremely guarded or reserved about providing details of the incidents. Victim said she had not been in contact with Fekri for some days after the January 30th assault, when she sustained a black right eye from him. Fekri then called her on February 5th at approximately 1:45 a.m. asking to come over and have sex. Victim said she was mad at Fekri, so she said no. Upon Fekri's arrest, his cell phone was seized and a search warrant was later issued for a forensic examination of the phone. Phone records from Fekri's phone show that he communicated with victim's phone number on February 5th of 2021 at approximately 1:46 a.m., and a screenshot supplied to me by the victim shows a FaceTime audio call at 1:45 a.m. from Fekri's international phone number. Victim told me that on another date between February 5th On February 14th, Fekri came to her apartment to have sex. She did not provide the exact date, but stated that it was after February 5th phone call and before the most recent assault against her on the 14th. Victim said that on this day, Fekri did not hit her, but did create the first two cuts on her. One cut made this day was on her lower neck, and the second cut was the smaller two cuts on her abdomen in a photo she supplied. The neck cut sustained on this day is the lower of two cuts on her neck, which is partially healed in photo the victim provided. The victim believed that the superficial cuts were a way for Fekri to demonstrate his power over her. When Fekri came to her apartment after midnight on February 13th, 2021, into the morning February 14th, unannounced, the victim stated she still didn't want to have sex with him, but she said they did end up having sex this night/morning, and this is also when he blackened her left eye and cut her neck and abdomen. When Fekri came over on this date, none of her roommates were home and she was alone. I told victim the university Wi-Fi records did not show Fekri's cell phone at her apartment during the assaults. The victim was not surprised at this, stating that Fekri had an international service with a cell phone and that did not get good service on campus. Victim stated that due to this, Fekri frequently would not carry a cell phone. Victim also told me that Fekri had some photos of her he took in her bedroom at an earlier date along with a video on his cell phone. Victim added that she did text Fekri after she came to the police department to report the incident on February 15th, 2021, and told him not to talk to anyone. Upon examination of Fekri's phone, UConn police found the content victim had described, verifying the information she had provided as being accurate. Witness 2 and the third witness, witness 3, similarly gave testimonies about how they were on the same soccer team as victim and would hear stories about the abuse and get evidence despite trying to help her through texts and wishing they could do more. The victim was unfortunately weary of getting help. This is a statement she said after multiple interviews. When I first came to UConn police to try to report the assault, I said they were not sexual assaults. I was having a very difficult time coming in and talking about what happened to me. I have been told by others that sexual assault cases were very difficult to endure for the victim and was worried about putting myself through all of those emotions and reliving what happened to me. I had also just stopped seeing Fekri and did not want to report him or get him in trouble as I still had feelings for him. I have not been seeing Fekri and am very angry at him for what he did to me. I know he did sexually assault me on 2 occasions, and I now do want him held accountable for how he hurt me. The outcome of this case, as of October 28th of 2022, Judge Margaret Murphy ruled Fekri to be sentenced on 2 counts of aggravated sexual assault and 1 count of unlawful restraint to a year in prison that he would unfortunately not serve, as he was also sentenced on a conditional discharge, which is a sentence typically given to misdemeanors that allows people found or pleaded guilty to avoid a formal conviction for 3 years, where he must not enter the U.S. or have any other new arrests with probable cause. I'm assuming since his discharge conditions include him not entering the U.S., he was sent back to Morocco in October 2022. So he got to graduate, but he was, I'm assuming, sent back to Morocco. He would now be allowed back into the U.S., assuming that he followed his conditional discharges conditions as of October 2025 with no conviction on his record. But I have no idea if he did or will come back. The victim got a protective order by the court against Fekri until 2098, stating he can never own firearms again in the U.S., stalk or do any crimes towards the victim, or just be within 100 yards of the victim. So what are some conclusions we can get from this? First of all, I didn't see any failures, according to the case file at least, on the UPD's part. This time, they encouraged her to seek help when she came to them. They carried out the arrest warrant the next day. They didn't, as far as I'm aware, trample evidence or sway the conviction that ended up happening. So they did what the general public wants them to do. But there were failures on the university's part. For example, Fekri having no repercussions for breaking the order against her was what led to further rapes. And that is unacceptable. That is completely unacceptable. I don't know why he didn't get repercussions. I'm assuming it has something to do with his status as a soccer player who is prominent at the university, possibly as a foreign student. They want him to be a role model, but he just wasn't that. He just wasn't. And similarly, a different failure was not moving Fekri to a different apartment complex from her. I have no idea why that wasn't their first thing. I'm assuming money. I'm assuming it would cost them too much. However, I think preventing rape is a bigger importance than saving a couple bucks. Call me crazy. Call me crazy. But I think that if you have a violent offender who is shown to be violent enough to get a restraining order for him on the university, I really feel like that should mean, okay, separate the violent offender and the victim and actually punish him for violating that. Similarly, the athletic trainer didn't report on the 15th the two black eyes and strange behavior she saw from the victim, but it was the same day, so she might have done that. I don't know. But if she wouldn't have, then that would have also been a failure on the university's part. The witnesses, I'm hesitant to say, failed her. They didn't report because the victim kept telling them not to, even though witness one clearly had the most influence to get her to stay at her apartment, at least. But the other two did express concerns. It's truly hard to say what the right thing to do in that situation is when you have a friend of yours who is going through that. Do you report for them, even against their wishes, even though that's technically a breach of consent? But at the same time, it could save their life. I don't know what the correct thing to do in that situation is. I think I would report because I'd rather they hate me and be alive, I guess. I'd rather have broken their consent, but they're alive. I it's a it's a hard situation. And then the victim, I didn't say her name in this episode, but she did also graduate in 2022. She was conflicted throughout the entire month that she was being tortured, and then the subsequent interviews with the police on where to save herself or bring down Fekri. But eventually, thankfully, she came forward on the 15th and was heard. And the fact that she was heard was probably the university's saving grace in this case. She, even though she reluctantly reported, it still took her a while to sort of come around. And, like, for example, she told him after she went to the police and sort of protected him somewhat in interviews and similarly downplayed his actions to her friends previously. So she was clearly conflicted. Possibly, I don't want to I don't want to speculate or say definitely for her that she has this, but it tracks with symptoms of Stockholm syndrome, which is typically a fondness for your abusers, that you are reliant on them in some way. And I am incredibly glad that she sort of snapped out of it enough to say, I need to stand up for myself. I need to bring this guy down, basically. And I hope if she's out there, she's doing well. And then there's Fekri, who got progressively more manipulative and abusive from early January to mid February. He used Snapchat to stay anonymous and got mad when she screenshotted or tried to change privacy settings, used knives, hit her, punched her, and pulled her in bed while having sex, and raped her at least twice, according to the victim. Now, we could speculate that the other times were non-consensual, but I don't want to speculate about that any more than we have to. We know it was definitely at least raped twice. I think the outcome gave him a slap on the wrist. I don't think it was nearly enough. I'm assuming because he was a foreign student, because he was from Morocco, they might have been limited on what they could have done. I'm not sure. But if they are, I think that's a little silly. I think that's a little bit more than silly. I think that's very, very damningly stupid. I think that if you come to this country and rape someone, you should be held accountable just like any other citizen. I think that classifying his multiple rapes and his extreme abusive behavior as a misdemeanor and then charging him according to that gives him a slap on the wrist that he really should not have gotten. I don't know if it was because he was a foreign student. I don't know if it was because he was a top soccer player and maybe UConn wanted to blow this under the rug. But why did I have to go to the case file to find the outcome of this? That's what I want to know. Why did I have to go all the way to here to find out he got a slap on the wrist? I'm assuming because there would have been outrage of it. I started here in 2022, and if I knew this place had this going on and was protecting their top players like this, I don't know if I would have come here. I genuinely don't think I think I would have considered not because my plans were set up for here. But if I'd have heard of something like this, I would have said they protect rapists. If I am raped on campus, I don't want them to be protected. I want them to take me seriously. And it seems like only some subsects of the university takes that seriously. But either way, she at least has a protective order against him for 100 years. That's good. That's very good. He cannot own weapons in the US. That's also very good. And he isn't, he mo- he likely isn't even in the US anymore. That's also good for Americans. So this case is a mixed bag, but it's not a total loss, I'd say. It's not a total systemic failure. I would say it's about half of a systemic failure. All right. And that's today's case update on Ziyad Fekri. This was just a solo episode with me, Christi Thrower. I tried to get the girls in, but they were busy. It's college life. You know how it is. So until next time, peace out. This is the UConn True Crime Club podcast. Have a good one.